we touched
So
on Brexit
your
at the end.
viewers can now witness the fact that you've turned me completely round from a Brexit voter to I wish we could wind the clock back a few years and retake that vote.
Well, the thing is, we'll just end with this. I mean, at the time of Brexit, it was a difficult time when I was talking to you about the EU and stuff because, and I think I said this on the last video. Some of our conversations I knew were going to end up in argument, and that the last thing that I wanted, and this has actually happened with a lot of family members during Brexit, is they've seriously fallen out. They've had raging arguments where it's got really heated, and at the time I didn't want that descending in that, so I kind of in a way sort of just shut up and just zipped my mouth up, and part of me thinks, well, maybe I should have sort of stood
Well,
my
maybe you
ground a
should
bit
have.
more,
No,
but at the end of the day, your vote would have mean diddly squat. I mean, it was two
yeah, no,
million.
but it's a moral thing. You see, I
Yeah.
now because of it, I feel partly guilty. Okay, I was only one of how many thousands people voted, but
Hmm.
I still feel morally partly guilty.
Yeah, but I also have
But
no ill feelings for anyone that voted Brexit because, I mean, you just described yourself the difference in the campaign. I don't think the Remain campaign could have done anything more than they'd done. It was just the pure simple fact that the Remain campaign was boring, complicated economics. And this is what I'm saying, it's complicated
I,
stuff. To understand the ins and outs of trade deals and all this sort of stuff is very complex. I struggle with it a lot, and it's
I think
boring, complex economics. But the argument for leaving was simple to understand, and you get people like Nigel
yeah,
Farage that come along and they say the reason
yeah,
that you can't get a doctor's appointment is because of EU freedom of movement, which
and
is complete
again,
and utter
you actually had
nonsense.
people like Farage and Boris Johnson, both of which have a lot of charisma. They
Yeah,
put themselves out there,
yeah,
whereas the Remain was David Cameron, which was very much like Starmer, which sat back, was quietly spoken,
mm,
um, and that was the problem. The Remain group, they needed some politicians that had charisma, and
mm.
there just wasn't any.
Yeah, but the Leave campaign was easy to understand with charismatic people at the front. That was the main difference. So
Yeah.
this is why I
Oh
don't
yeah.
have any problem if I'd watched a certain amount of videos, or if the social media algorithm had pointed me in a certain direction, I may have ended up voting Leave. It's just it
But,
was so easy to
but
sort of
if your
understand that
viewers
argument.
go back to our previous uh, cast, uh, you've got to bear in mind that my generation had a lot of history. That really the Leave campaign uh, fueled it.
Yeah,
They recognised that history and prejudice we had about Europe, and they actually uh, jumped on that and
yeah.
generated the vote, didn't they?
Yeah. Whenever you hear from Brexit voters like yourself, they generally always have some sort of anecdote from the past that really
Yeah.
fueled their decision. I know your one was about a bakery or something that had to change their equipment because of EU regulation, I believe.
Well, yeah.
I think that
Also,
stuck in your head, didn't it?
yeah. The fact that we were tricked into it by a Conservative government. In fact, it's quite ironic, really. I felt as if it was a Conservative government that tricked us into entering it. It was a Conservative government that tricked us to leave it, which all seemed a bit strange to me.
Yeah, but it's everyone that I speak to that voted Brexit had one of these sort of anecdotal stories, like the one that I
Yeah.
just
Oh,
said with the
yeah.
bakery.
Yeah.
And it's always like, even my friend Dan had something similar where he was working for a business and there was some sort of EU regulation that they felt was wasting money.
Yeah.
But as I always say with Brexit, people have these little anecdotal stories, and then that fixates with them, and they have negative opinions of the EU, and then they completely forget all the vast benefits, because a lot of the time they don't even understand them. You know, the vast benefits that we get from trade, the vast benefits we get from freedom of movement, all these amazing things that we get, but because of this one anecdotal story about this a bit of money that was wasted here or something, you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater, and you know that's what
Yes.
happens so much with the Brexit vote, and yeah, going back to those arguments, even though those arguments were so fundamentally wrong, I always think of Nigel Farage saying the basic argument from Farage: the reason that you can't get a doctor's appointment is because of freedom of movement. So obviously wrong, but basically it makes sense for people that don't know too much about the topic. Oh, you know, more people can come into the country, so more doctor's appointments. Not thinking that actually people that are coming into the country are workers of a young age that aren't really using the NHS in their 20s and 30s. That's not the reason that you can't get a doctor's appointment. The reason you can't get a doctor's appointment is because we've had 15 years of Tory austerity and they're not investing in it. But anyway, these arguments are easy to understand. And Nigel Farage, uh, obviously, I cannot stand the man. I can't stand anything the man stands for. I have a passionate hatred for him, but he is probably the best politician in the country, effective politician. He is the most effective politician in the country of getting his message across. You know, I don't think there's any doubt about that over the last 15, 20 years. Being effective as a politician, he's the best. And it's such a shame that he's on the wrong cause. I wish
Well,
he was on the
yes,
right
yeah.
cause.
I will admit because he's not frightened to stand up and say what he believes, and even when people are jeering him and um, ridiculing him, he still just carries on with his message.
Mm,
And yeah, as you say, if he was on the right boat, then
yeah.